It's Friday, November 8th, 2024. That's a good way to start every show. All right, so promotional segment. Very easy.
SupportOurShow.com.
If you'd like to support our show. Also, we have to add one because I haven't updated that page yet. Patreon.com/Orlando Brew, where you can join for free and help support Lando's, I was about to say author adventure. I don't know where I was going with that. It was like your quest to become an author.
Hey, it is an author adventure. I am. You know what? Technically, I am. Like, I am an author, but I'm also not like, a classically published author by normal means. So, yeah. But honestly, this is an audiobook adventure. That's what I call it. The audiobook project. So if you like to listen, it is free. If you want to support, feel free. Otherwise, it's there anyway, so enjoy. I noticed something really funny about you the other day. I was posting something on Twitter for the chapter 2 that just came out of my book, and I noticed that in your description of yourself, you refer to yourself as the co-host of the Ozone Nightmare. And I was laughing, and I almost posted something. I almost posted something because I always think that, but you're the main host. I'm the co-host.
No. It's okay. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's like
main
Conan.
host.
Because remember, who was the guy with Conan?
Oh, Andy Richter?
Andy, yeah, I'm Andy.
No. That's no. And I'll tell you why. Because if you were to look at how much Conan talked compared to Andy, it's a very, very lopsided amount. You and I handle this show's weight equally in terms of the Friday show. Now, on the other ones, it's a different story, but I don't break it apart that way. And every time there's somebody who's not you, they are always a guest host. They aren't with, So, no, it is co-host.
I just thought that was funny. That's all.
No, that's how it
So, yes, supportourshow.com, and
also code OZONE could get you a couple months free on Libsyn, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, possibly, hopefully.
Yeah.
If you want to start a, audio
Perhaps.
adventure.
Oh, that's the sound clip I need. I have to. God damn.
What's that?
Hold on. In the movie Scrooged, Carol Kane is the ghost of Christmas Present. And there's a part, and that was not an audio glitch. That was me trying to remember the word present. That's why I was going, that was me.
Well, or remember which one she was, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The one with the wings who smashes him in the face with a toaster. But there's a part where they're looking in on his secretary's home, and they're obviously very impoverished, and he says, oh, maybe she's due for a raise, and she starts flicking his hand. She's like, maybe, possibly, perhaps. I need to get that sound effect. That would be perfect for code OZONE. Might work, possibly.
I'm going to be sad when she leaves Strange New Worlds. Because she has been I liked Hammer. But she is, if you were going to replace Hammer, I like that they tried to replace him with something completely different.
Yes, I was just going to say that. That was the smartest thing they could do.
Yeah.
Was not try to make another one of him.
Yeah, a grouchy, immortal woman is fantastic.
That's great.
and the thing is that Scotty's there now, so I wonder if they're going to keep him there or if he's going to leave and come back later. But I worry that it is the death knell for her, for Carol Kane, that now that Scotty's there, at some point this coming season, she will exit. They're putting the crew together. You know?
Well, they are. They are. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I can't wait to see how they handle Bones, because I mean they've had this. I am really enjoying the way that they're trying to take on the original show and utilize it, but then also almost update it. So like, you know, the new Kirk is got aspects of Shatner, but then there's something, you know, less rapey about him. You know, like he's still a player. You still get this sense that, you know, he's a smooth guy, but he's, you know, they've made him.
He's less rapey.
He's less rapey. He is.
No,
Listen,
look,
I watched
you're right.
some classic.
It's just funny. That's all. It's just
I watched some classic Star Trek recently, and I was horrified by how rapey I don't remember him being. And I think it's because there's a lot of really good episodes that you watch, and then you don't watch like the kind of the off ones. But then the off ones are the ones where he's like, he's just like, "Come here, love me, bitch." You know, like he's just so Like
yeah,
I mean,
that was his catchphrase. Love me, bitch.
Love me, bitch. Yeah, right. I mean, that was his thing. I mean, there's a reason the joke is that, you know, the captain shows up and shags the aliens. It's because of Kirk, right? So I like that they're trying to find the kind of a bridge, especially since I get the feeling that they're going to just make Star Trek again. Like, I think that they're, because at one point I thought, oh, you know what, they're just going to make Strange New Worlds till Pike leaves. But now I'm sitting there going, no, I don't think so. I think that they're going to carry this all the way through. If this works, I think they will carry this all the way through Kirk and the original crew, or their version of the original crew, and they will keep going. Because why wouldn't you if it works and everyone enjoys it? So their version of Kirk is fascinating to me. You know, it's I didn't like him when he first showed up, and now that they've given you time with him to warm up, you're kind of like, oh, you know what? He is pretty good. And you know, the new Spock is great. And Uhura is great, and now we've just met Scotty, and it's interesting how they're, rather than try and hit us with a whole new crew or a whole new version of the original, they're easing them into the Strange New Worlds crew, so you can be like, oh, you know what, I do like the way they interact. I do think, you know, but I can't, you know, I always forget, is that Dr. Abenga? Yeah, Dr. Abenga.
Yeah.
Was he the Doctor? He wasn't the Doctor in the original Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, he was. No, he was.
Was he? I just forget him.
Yeah.
That's
Although
the thing,
I think, hold on, I want to say that he wasn't black, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think maybe that's why I don't remember him.
Hold on, I'm gonna look.
Because I know that Nurse Chapel was there.
Okay, let's see. Jeez. Oh, you know what? Why am I going to Wikipedia when there are endless Star Trek things that have all the... Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. Oh, my God. Okay. Let's see. This is casting. Where is the Doctor? Chief.
I mean, there should be like a Star Trepedia or something like that, you know?
No, there is. It's called Memory Alpha. No, it is. I mean, it's a wiki that has... starring guest star. Why does it not have... That's interesting. This is not laid out the way I would have thought it would. Hold on, let me do a quick find. Doctor. Boyce. Who's Boyce? Is it Boyce? I thought... oh, you know what? Maybe Mbenga wasn't on the... Hold on.
Is it a character that was in the original but not on
I want
to
say maybe he wasn't on the ship. Maybe that's where I'm making the mistake, is that he was not part of the actual original crew or
yeah,
head.
and
here we go.
And that's fine.
Dr.
What I was going
Mbenga,
to say,
so I'm going to look this up. Go ahead.
I will miss that character when he goes.
Yeah.
Because
Here he is,
I
Joseph
think that
Mbenga. Oh no, he was black. Yes.
Oh, was he?
wrong. He is.
Good.
Yep. Yeah. He was Dr.
'cause
Joseph
I think-
Mbenga was a male Starfleet officer. Okay.
After Pike, I think I like the Doctor the most. With the interesting way they've done him.
Oh no, he was. Yes, he was on the Enterprise. Yes.
Oh, good.
Got it. So
Yeah.
I think according to this, the original one was... Oh, see, now the thing is they're mixing the two of them together.
Okay.
The old actor and the new actor. So I'm trying to determine whether the original actor was. Okay, no, it looks like he was. Yes. Okay, so he was.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Listen, the character will be there. That's what's good. Because I like Dr. Benga, and when they eventually just become the original Star Trek crew, it'd be nice if certain people you like stay. So, yeah. But yeah, this season. I mean, did you see that I don't know if this was a good idea. They released that bit of the first episode of season 2, and that completely negates it doesn't negate it, but it completely answers the cliffhanger in like 5 minutes. Did you see that?
I did not watch it.
Okay, I thought that it was like a commercial for the season. So I'm watching it and I'm like, oh shit, is this just the beginning of season 3? I was like, holy shit. I was like, oh crap, okay. And yeah, they answered it like so quickly. I was like, okay, that's weird that you would release that.
That's interesting. It makes you wonder why they did that.
Yeah, like what else is going on that you like? Did you worry that people had lost interest? Like, yeah. So, but I'm gonna tell you right now.
I don't know if I did lost interest, but it does make you wonder why they did it. I'd be curious.
Why would they? Yeah, because that's such a big opener, right? But watching early days of Next Generation, the last season of Picard totally makes sense to me. Because you know what? I forgot that Picard and Beverly, like, that there was like a weird sexual tension between them, and like she was the widow of one of his best friends, right? Isn't that what it was?
Yeah, yes, it was one of his best friends.
Yeah, she's the widow of one of his best friends, and she had a son, and she was on the ship. And by like episode 2, when they have that weird drunken episode, he's like flirting with her and like walking around, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I was like, Picard makes total sense now. Because in my head, I had forgotten all that. Because I think later on, it wasn't like that so much in the show. But early on, yeah, there's a lot of sexual tension between those two.
Well, that's because originally they were going to make it more prominent, and then the showrunners decided they just didn't want to do that. So they just
yeah,
backed
Picard
away off
never really has a girlfriend.
No, the closest would be, what's her name? Not Vance. The one who shows up with Q in Deep Space Nine. She shows up in the Next Gen. She's the like thief archaeologist. Oh,
yes.
Vash.
Yeah.
Vash.
Yeah. Yeah, but what I mean is, like, they never stay. They never become a character. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
he may have people who passingly come and go, but...
Well, even in the movie, so like, he's betting that one woman, and then, the next movie, that's all over with.
Yeah, and then it's not like O'Brien. O'Brien had a wife who was a character on the show and went on.
Yeah, Keiko.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, by the way, what happened I forgot. Did O'Brien leave Deep Space Nine before the show ended?
No, he was there till the end.
He was there till the end? Okay.
Yeah.
I always forget that for some reason. Anyway, yeah, so... And O'Brien is in, like, the very first episode of Next Generation, isn't he?
He is... Yes, but he's not the chief engineer. He's, like, on the bridge.
Yeah, he was on the secondary bridge. Yeah, he popped up, and I was like, hey, it's O'Brien.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and then he ran the transporter room. So, yeah, he kind of bounced around.
Yeah, they moved his ass.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm mixing him up. I'm sorry. Geordi starts out on the bridge and then becomes the engineer, and then O'Brien is the transporter guy until Deep Space Nine, and then he's like the super engineer for the station.
Transporter dude. Yeah.
Pretty much.
There you go. Well, speaking of origins, I watched the Transformers 1 movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that just came up for download or whatever, you like rent it, whatever. And my son is crazy about Transformers, so that came up, and we were like, well, I guess we're watching this. Now, what's fascinating with that movie is that it's produced by Spielberg and Michael Bay, so they're still floating around.
Oh yeah, no, they're still there.
But it's clearly leaning towards kids, right? But I'm always fascinated by the way they sneak things into kids' movies. And the whole point of that movie is to get Optimus Prime to the point where he becomes Optimus Prime, and to get Megatron to the point that he becomes Megatron, right?
Yeah, because they start out as best friends.
Because they started as buddies, yeah. And I thought it was actually very well done. Like, the Optimus Prime. It's the good guys are easy. Like he was his name? Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime works fine, and the way they have like a young optimistic Optimus Prime who I think is in Oren Pax, like that's fine. Whatever. That's easy fare. What's more interesting to me was getting Megatron from being like his best buddy, going on adventures with him, to being like, I will fucking kill you. And honestly, I actually thought they did a pretty good job. Do you know anything about it? How they did it?
I mean, I know the basics of it. I didn't watch it, but I know what the idea of it was to start off with them friends and then have them almost like a Professor X Magneto kind of schism thing.
Yeah, but basically what's going on is the Transformers, for lack of a better phrase, they're not Autobots yet. The Transformers have been betrayed. They just don't know it. So the Primes who controlled everything, were essentially double-crossed by one of their own, whose name I can't remember now. Shit. Who's played by John Hamm, which was very funny. But basically they were betrayed by one of their own. And that guy then becomes the only Prime on the planet. And what he does is he strikes a deal with aliens and says, for destroying the Primes, I will pay you off in Energon, and I will be ruler of Cybertron. Except that he can't get the cog of leadership because apparently that shit vanishes. Apparently you don't just get to grab that thing and take it. And this day in that period of history, the what do they call them? The main Prime, who is essentially the planet, decides who gets it. So the cog of leadership is gone.
You mean the Matrix of leadership? The
Matrix of leadership. The cogs are the other things that let you transform. That's what that is.
I was gonna say.
So the Prime, who's in charge, like I said, his name I can't remember. Is it Alpha Prime? He has stolen. So when new Autobots are birthed, which they don't get into, I'll be very clear about that because I was like, where do new Autobots come from? He has their transformation cogs.
Robo Stork.
Yeah. He has their transformation cogs removed. So most of the planet, it looks like, cannot transform. They are all just bots who are mining Energon for what they think is basically the effort to locate the Primes and locate the Matrix of leadership. And honestly, that right there was very Philip K. Dick. That whole thing, because like that's this whole idea that they're all miners. They think that there's a war on. They think they're helping the war effort. You got to keep mining, and then they realize when Prime and Megatron get out of there, because they think they're looking for the Matrix of leadership, they discover that there is no war anymore. That essentially Prime double-crossed them, and all the energon they've been mining, they've been giving to this alien species to pay them off. So when they get to that betrayal, Optimus is fucking pissed, but his whole thing is, well, we have to get the people, and we have to unite them against this Prime, and we have to free them and fight these fuckers off, and like he takes the good guy approach, whereas Megatron, I think is what it is that they say the true believers always fall the hardest. Megatron's character early on is this guy who's like, no, let's just follow the rules. If you follow the rules, things will work out, and we'll get to where we need to be. And when he realizes that he's been double-crossed this whole time, that his whole life is a lie, he is so angry, and his response is like, no, I don't want to bring justice. He's like, I want to kill him. He's like, I want to kill Prime. I want to kill this Prime that's fucking us up. What the hell is his name? Because I can't keep calling Optimus Prime and Prime because he calls Optimus Prime. So let's see if I can find his name. Is it Alpha Prime? But
Benedict Prime.
Yeah, Benedict Prime. That'd be great. Let's see. What is his name? Otherwise, I have to call him Ham Prime.
What was that? What was the guy that turned Jesus in?
Sentinel Prime. There you go. Oh, Judas Prime. Judas Prime is a good name, by the way. That's like a metal band right there.
Yeah.
Come listen to my band, Judas Prime. Yeah. So no, it's Sentinel Prime. So Sentinel Prime has double-crossed the Transformers, and there's only a very small group that know it. And when Megatron, who at this point is named D16, realizes that his crumble is so well done that he basically goes from being like, follow the rules, stop getting us in trouble, to suddenly he's like, I want to kill him. He's like, my whole world is a lie. He's like, all these rules I followed are fucking bullshit. And he's kind of on his way, but up to that moment, you still think that maybe Optimus can kind of pull him back from the brink. But then they meet the Fallen Guard. And the Fallen Guard are apparently the guardsmen who worked for the original Primes, who were double-crossed by Sentinel Prime themselves and escaped into the wild. Because nobody lives on the surface. That's the other thing. Sentinel Prime has got everybody underground so he can control the narrative. These guys are the only Transformers who are above ground, and they are essentially running like a guerrilla resistance. And they're being led by Starscream. And when you realize that the former High Guard of the original Primes are what will become the Decepticons. They're all the Decepticons. They haven't become it yet. So then when Megatron shows up to this group, Starscream is kind of pushing people around because he's the leader. And at this point they have you've got Optimus, Bumblebee, and Megatron, and Alita. I don't know who Alita 1 becomes. I thought that she was RC.
Is that the female?
Yeah, that's the Scarlet. There's two female Transformers that you always see. Okay. And I don't remember Alita. I remember RC, but I don't remember Alita. Either way, she's voiced by Scarlett Johansson, and she's great. They sell her as a badass. It's fine. So when the four of them show up in the camp of the former High Guard, Starscream is being an asshole, and essentially talks about how, we only follow the hardest warrior, the bravest warriors. He's like, you take leadership. At which point, Megatron, the four of them have just finally gotten their transformation cogs and are only beginning to realize what their new bodies can do, because up to now they've just been bots. So Megatron, in anger and fury, basically fighting with Starscream, realizes that he's got an arm cannon. It's actually a really cool moment where he's fighting him. The Starscream's like, you can't beat me. And at that point, Megatron throws him to the ground and he points at him and his whole arm, the cannon, pops out. And everyone's like, oh, shit. And in that moment, the High Guard decide that Megatron is their leader. And once he gets leadership of that group, it's all downhill for Megatron, because he now has a group of people that follow him who want to basically kill the Sentinel Prime the way he does. And though Optimus needs to use them to get into the city, you realize that these two crews are now headed in completely different directions. And it's great because they get to the finale and they basically catch Sentinel Prime, and it's literally between Optimus and Megatron, and one of them trying to kill Sentinel and the other essentially trying to bring him to justice. Optimus has basically played on the I guess Autobot TV, all the videos showing that Sentinel Prime has basically betrayed them all, and there's already kind of a revolution. So in Optimus's mind, it's over. He's not in charge anymore. But Megatron is like, no, he needs to die. He needs to pay, and we need to tear this whole society down because the society is the problem. He's like, it's all a fucking lie, and he goes fucking apeshit. And in an interesting kind of twist, was it Optimus gets in the way of Megatron shooting Sentinel Prime, which basically blows his whole chest and shoulder out, and he falls off one of these towers where they're fighting into the heart of Cybertron, in which the ghost, what do you call it? The Force Ghost? What do you call the ghost of a Transformer? The Energon Ghost? Yeah, the Energon Ghost,
the Phantasmatron
of the former Primes basically say, yeah, you deserve the Matrix of Leadership. You're the one we've been waiting for. Here you go. And send him back to the surface, where in which he shows up, and now he's the Optimus now that we know. He's fucking huge. He's armored. He's got all the extra abilities that the leader would have. And he stops Megatron from destroying the city and basically says, you're banished. It's like, I won't kill you, but you have to leave. And he banishes the High Guard and Megatron and whoever else wants to leave with them. And that's how the movie ends. The movie ends with them basically the formation of the Autobots and the formation of the Decepticons. And what's interesting to me also, that they play with the lore. The symbol for the Decepticons
Uh-huh.
It is the head of one of the primes, who is considered to be the most powerful. I can't remember his name now. Was it? I don't know, it was Megatron Prime or something like that. But it was a name like that. And from the beginning of the movie, D16 like idolizes this guy because he's like this big, one of the most powerful primes there was. So when they go up against Sentinel Prime, that's the symbol that Megatron holds to, and that's the symbol that becomes the symbol of the Decepticons. And apparently in this version they're called the Decepticons because they've been deceived. Whereas was it Optimus calls themselves the Autobots because they are autonomous. They do not have to.
Oh,
yeah,
clever.
they do not have to follow one person. That they can have. It's more of a democracy, right? So the autonomous are the Autobots, and those that have been deceived and that are fucking pissed about it are Decepticons because they've been deceived. I actually found the writing to be quite clever. The greatest moment in the movie, though, is when Alita is angry at I think she's angry at Optimus and Bumblebee and D16, and she calls them GoBots. She goes, "Okay." No. She goes, "Come on, you GoBots," and she walks out, and and nobody. I was watching with my kids and my wife, and nobody understood what had just been said. I started laughing so hard. My wife was like, "You're gonna have to stop the movie now and explain this to them so you understand, why you're laughing like it." Isn't it? Oh man, when she said that, I was like, "How the hell did they get that in there?" I was like, "Oh God.
That's amazing."
Yeah. So it's you can now, in the Transformers universe, you can now call somebody a GoBot as a fucking insult. So I enjoyed it. I'd be honest with you, if I had it steers towards kids, but if you are a fan of Transformers, you will enjoy it. There's enough comedy and lore in there, and like they really tried to make it so that people who love Transformers will be like, okay, this is fun, and kids will be like, oh, fucking robots, yeah, right. So like I oddly enjoyed it. It's always interesting when they have to walk the line like that. I think that's one of the things that when Michael Bay made the Transformers like live action movies, I think what was missing was that kid element. They made them very sort of like,
yeah, they were silly, but they weren't for kids.
Exactly, right? and they were like, oh, it's so gritty, and you're kind of looking at it going, dude, can you just make Optimus look vaguely like what he used to? And that's why
like what he was.
Yeah, and that's why when they did the Bumblebee movie, right? I love the fact they showed classic Optimus. Right? They showed what he looked like.
The opening of Bumblebee on Cybertron is the best thing since the first animated movie.
Yeah, and
a lot
of this animated movie, Transformers 1, reminds me of that. If they made that whole movie in live action, it would be like that, except there's more comedy. And that's the thing, is that like they realized they had to make it funnier. And once things get heavy, the humor does go away. But most of the humor is basically coming from Bumblebee, who's at this point is still B-127. And they got Keegan-Michael Key to do the voice. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell you that he's obnoxious. Very early on, he is kind of obnoxious. But when they get their cogs of transformation, his massive glee and complete cluelessness as to what his new abilities are is actually quite funny. Like, he's got armor plating now. He's got laser hands. Like, it definitely makes Bumblebee far more of a joke character, but it doesn't detract from the fact that he's still pretty hardcore. Like, just because they made him the funny character doesn't mean they stopped him from being, Optimus's right-hand man who basically kicks the shit out of people, which is how they kind of set him up in the Bay movies. So it was an interesting line to watch them walk. My wife afterwards was like, we need to watch something that doesn't have anyone lecturing me about heroism. And I was like, yeah, there's a lot of moralism in this movie because they're setting up the entire moralistic conundrum between Megatron and Optimus. And honestly, like I said, the thing with Megatron, where his whole thing is, my world, I've been living a lie. I've been betrayed. He needs to die. That's justice. I'm kind of sitting there going, I don't entirely disagree with his logic. If somebody is responsible for doing that to your entire society, it's like suddenly, this version of Megatron, I'm like, I get it. Where he goes wrong is where he's so angry, he starts destroying the city around them. And in that respect, that's when like the Superman element comes out, where Optimus is like, you can't destroy the society. He's like, people live here. This is our world. He's like, settle the fuck down. So I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was cleverly done. Right now, of the movies that have come out in Transformers, you can kind of, there's two piles, right? There's the Michael Bay Transformers movies on one hand, right? And then you've got the original Transformers motion picture, you've got the Bumblebee movie, and you've got this. I put this in that pile. It's definitely worth watching. They tried to do some innovative things. They tried to show how characters became what they are, and they tried to do it in a somewhat organic way, so it wasn't just I'm a bad guy. Because that's the thing you always get, right? Where it's like, I'm bad. I want to conquer the universe because I'm bad. And it's like, no, this sets up Megatron in a very different way, where you're like, no, he's not. He doesn't want to just be the bad guy and take over. I was like, there's logic, there's reason behind this. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I don't know if I wouldn't have seen it. I don't know if I would have seen it if I hadn't seen it with my kids. But like, I have people that I know who love Transformers who went to see it without kids, and they really loved it. So yeah, it seems to have passed the muster.
Yeah, I haven't seen any really bad reviews of it.
Yeah.
I watched the trailer. I don't think it's for me. I kind of...
No, it steers very kiddie at times.
Oh, it's not even that
Yeah.
part. I mean, there is that, which is fine. I actually don't mind that. I think for me, it's more that I really don't need... I don't know. I never felt like I needed to know their backstory. It's not necessary for me. It's one of those things where I'm like, yeah,
I honestly,
okay.
I don't think they did it because they want backstory. I think they did it because they want to start over.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is, when it comes to Transformers, it's kind of like Resident Evil for me. I like the classic stuff. It's fine, it changes. I don't have any problem with it. It can keep changing, and it doesn't have to ever go back to what I like. But I like the original stuff.
But they're not changing it so much. I think this is kind of like Strange New Worlds in that respect, where it's the idea that they're updating things to tell you this kind of before story, but they're also making it so that this story can intersect with the original stuff, and then they can make the original stuff again if they want. Do you know what I mean? Like, they could very easily take the original show and redo it in this manner with this kind of updated storyline and have it make sense.
That's fine.
And the fall of Cybertron is an interesting story that they have gotten into. And what is it Rooster Teeth? Aren't they the ones that did like a whole bunch of stuff? Their stuff is really good. I don't know if you've seen any of that.
Yeah, I've seen some of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so their stuff is really good, and so I for now, I kind of like where all this is going. They haven't really. The Bumblebee movie was fantastic, and the way it handled Cybertron and all that stuff was fantastic, but no one seemed to pick the ball up after that, right? Even the Primal movie, what is it? The Transformers Prime or whatever, the one with Optimus Primal, whatever. That felt like it was...
yeah. I don't remember what it was called. That one.
That was okay, but it still felt like it was trying to straddle the line between the Bumblebee movie and the Michael Bay movies. And you're like, okay. I like parts of it, but there's, it's not perfect. Whereas I'm sitting there going, just dump the Bay movies, man. If that's all they need to do, dump the Bay movies and lean towards the Bumblebee movie in that format. But it's not going to happen because Bay is still the executive producer on all this shit.
No, I know. Which is too bad because, the Bumblebee movie I felt like...
It was good, right? Yeah.
It handled it. I felt like it skewed young. It hit the middle ground where it worked for younger people and it worked for older people. So, I would not mind if the person who had done that had gone on to do more, but I think it did okay, but not well enough that they continued with it. If I remember, One of those.
Yeah,
classic
and the
things.
Primal movie that they did, it wasn't bad. I did enjoy a lot of it. I mean, I loved having Hellboy.
Yeah, but it was. But I honestly, I don't remember any of it.
But it's straddled. Yeah, it was still trying to keep the Michael Bay stuff kind of attached to it as much as it could.
Yeah.
And I think that movie's supposed to take place before the Michael Bay movies, isn't it? I don't know what the fucking timeline is anymore.
No, it's prequel. No, it's prequel.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So definitely. Honestly, if they just want to dump all of it and go from here with this is like the beginning of the new Transformer flicks, as long as they can keep this like this kind of storytelling sense, I'll be interested to see it. And I have the excuse because my son loves Transformers, so so yeah. But shifting now to the realm of
Well, one last thing on.
Oh, go ahead.
I am glad it's not bad because I do like the fact that they're still making different types of Transformer stuff. That does make me think at some point maybe they will go back to do a Bumblebee type, because if they've now done at least 3 different types of Transformer things, and the series that I watched on Netflix was very good, and that was a much darker, harsher kind of series.
Oh yeah, is that the Rooster Teeth one, or is that the?
Is Rooster Teeth the ones who made that? No, hold on, let's see. You might be right. Maybe it is.
They did a series of them that was really
cool. Maybe they were the ones who made it.
That was one with the combiners and all that crazy shit.
I don't. War for Cybertron. Hold on, let's see.
I think that's
who made
Rooster
that?
Teeth.
Oh, sorry. This is the toy line. Where's the? Okay, here's the. No, okay, no, it's not that. It was. Oh, here it is. War for. Okay, no, that is what it's. Jeez, this is so confusing when they make multiple things. They're all okay. So it is called 3 seasons. War for Cybertron. Who made it though? It just says Netflix. It doesn't say who made it.
Hold on.
Really?
Hold on.
So, can you find who made the thing?
I'm working on it.
Jeez, man. Oh yeah, there it is. Rooster Teeth. You're right. So it is. That's the Rooster Teeth one. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was.
Yeah. They did the slightly darker version. That was.
Yes,
that was
and
really
that was
still
very good.
Though.
That's the one where they had what's his face's head on the table talking to Megatron, whoever it was, and that they his basically his Goebbels or whatever. That guy was great. I can't remember. It was Soundwave maybe. He was awesome.
Shockwave and Soundwave.
Which one's the one that has one arm that's like a cannon and he's purple and he's got like a weird
Soundwave is the tape deck. Shockwave is the gun.
Yes.
hand.
No.
Yeah.
So it's the one that turns into a gun. Whenever one turns into a gun, okay, that's Shockwave.
Yeah. With the one eye. With the one eye.
Yes. Yeah. The Cyclops. That's it. Purple Cyclops. Yeah. That's him. Yeah, he's great. He was great in that series. You should watch that series if you haven't. Especially if you like Transformers 1. It's not too
honestly,
dark for your kids.
I like that that the episodes were really short too. Like I don't normally like that, but they really pack a lot in these little episodes. Yeah.
The only thing about the War for Cybertron is I think each episode is longer. I think they're maybe they're an hour. They're a little longer, but they're so good.
They had to get longer eventually.
And that one also gets into the idea that maybe Optimus has bought into his belief system is too strong in doing everything the right way, and it doesn't always work. It's kind of what they were trying to do with Star Trek Voyager. Well, what happens when the Federation ideals are put to the test? They don't always survive. It's that idea.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that I do agree with that idea. It is fascinating because you know Optimus wants to be a good guy. He wants to be the good leader, but this is the whole. Yeah, but some situations will break that. Some situations will go too far. Some situations you're what do you do with Sentinel Prime, right? Now that you've broken his hold in the society, do you think he's going to stop fighting you? What do you do with him? Like now you have to create prisons because you have to put these, and some of these people may never stop hating you. So do you put them away forever? Do you just store them forever? You know what I mean? Like it's stuff like that where you're like you start to get into the nitty gritty of a society, and you realize that some of these goody leaders, it's like, well, it only works for so long. So yeah. But this steers towards the kid end of things, so we're not going to think about that. But I wanted to talk about something else really quick. Before the show, I was talking to Joe about how Cory Doctorow is a prolific fucking Twitter poster. I've been using Twitter recently because I post my my audiobook thing on there, but I've been trying to, kind of fuck with it a little bit and try it out and follow a few people that I'm interested in. And man, he just posts so much shit. He is a retweeting maniac. But he also does post interesting things. That's kind of the problem, is that he throws 40 things at you, but like 2 of them are really interesting. And he posted this article that he wrote about how what the article's about and what it made me think about are connected but sort of separate, which is the idea of the software-based car. Now, what Doctor's article is about how the company Fisker, who I didn't even know made cars. Like, I know that they make a ton of shit, but I didn't know they made electric cars. Did I miss that? Like, you said you knew, right?
Well, the only thing I'm checking on is whether the Fisker is the same Fisker that makes everything, because there are companies that, let's see, so Fisker, oh jeez, there was another Fisker that's gone. See, this is where it gets confusing.
Well,
there was another Fisker called
way.
Fisker Automotive that went out of business. This is a different Fisker now. Is this the same Fisker that makes everything else?
I think Fisker went out of business they declared bankruptcy at one point previous.
Yeah,
They actually cite that in the article.
It's so
they
confusing. Who cares?
Yeah, they went bankrupt at one point.
Yeah.
And then when they came back and they were like, "Hey, we're going to make electric cars," they still managed to find money to back them. So they have gone bankrupt again, and they have basically said, we're not supporting our electric cars. We're not supporting the software. We're not supporting anything. We're bankrupt. We're gone. And all their electric cars are now bricks. Because much like many systems, they had systems in the car that had to regularly check in with whatever servers to update them and keep them functioning. Or, just to make sure that you're still a slave to their system. And this got into the idea of how all these companies are really get hard over the idea of the software-based car, which is the idea is, you have a vehicle that you need, but hey, you know what? We own the software that controls your car, so you have to and then you get into the whole, what is it as a service?
Software as a service.
Software as a service, yeah. Software, honestly, what they want is software car as a service. And so it's like, yeah, but when that company then dies, as Fisker has, your car's a brick. Now fucking what? Now we're waiting for someone bright enough to hack the goddamn system and fucking hotwire the whole thing. Right? That's what we're waiting for, which is hopefully a backlash that will come, where you can start hotwiring your own, running your own software, right? A Linux version, running Linux in your Fisker car, so the damn thing can run. But there's so many components to a car. Do you really even want that on the road, right? Because if you're suddenly running ad hoc software in your vehicle, does that make it safe? And it kind of got this whole thing about like the state of cars and vehicles and where they're going. And I had a conversation recently with my son about the mechanical nature of cars and the way that we're losing it. And I was trying to explain to him how there is a period in history of cars that you could just, it's all mechanical parts. So if something breaks, you can figure it out and replace the part and fix it. Whereas today, like, I can't do that with my car. Like, I have to bring that to a mechanic who's officially licensed to work with that kind of software, right? Whereas before, if your car went, you'd bring it to a mechanic and he'd be like, okay, let me put my shirt sleeves up and get, balls deep in your vehicle. And they would like look through your engine and they could find shit and they could be like, oh, this isn't working because this blew or that broke, or then, I got to order a part for that, right? It was mechanical. We're losing that. Now it's all software. But the joke is that, yeah, it's software, and that's great right up to the moment where those companies aren't there to support that software. There are cars out there still running today whose companies have been gone for decades, and they're still running. They're still there, right? Whereas recently, my car ratted me out to the dealership that I needed service, and they texted me, your car says that you're reaching the mileage, and I was like, you motherfuckers. I was so angry, I got into my car and I lectured it that it was a betrayer. And I was sitting there going, How the fuck do you shut that off? I didn't even know that feature was on. Is there somewhere in my car that I can go in and be like, don't rat me out to the dealership, you bitch? But that's the age that we live in now. And I'm kind of sitting there going, well, if my car is ratting me out, what the hell else is ratting me out that I'm not even aware of? If anything, I'm glad they texted me because they let me know that my car is Judas. So, but it gets into this larger question where like these corporations, they really want, software as a service vehicle. They really want software as a service cars. But you're left with this situation of, yeah, but this isn't going to run when you guys are gone. And they don't care. But then it's like, wow, you're really creating garbage. Because now all these Fisker cars, you can't do anything about those. Those are landfill. Hopefully somebody will pick out the pieces that they can be reused in something else. But it's the same with the fucking Teslas. Right? Tesla goes bankrupt tomorrow. Who's running those things? Like...
No, I agree. Listen, I totally agree. This is one of the reasons I've said many, many times. I don't like the whole make everything. I don't think, and at some point I would imagine that there will be some kind of legislation that will make this illegal. But as with most things, the law is behind the times. So.
Oh, yeah. It'll be, honestly, we'll get a law for this in like a decade. This is going to have to burn somebody important before it becomes a thing. Like there's going to have to be, you're going to have some rich guy somewhere trying to drive his electric car, finding it has been bricked and the company no longer exists. And that person's going to be like, they should really have a law for this because I shouldn't be allowed to be burned. And then that'll become a thing. Till then, we'll see. I give it a decade. But it is annoying. And especially in this age where like, so many of us depend on our vehicles to get us around, get us to jobs, get our kids to school. Like, we depend on our cars, right? If both your cars stop tomorrow, Joe, what kind of day would that be for you?
It would definitely be a bummer.
I mean,
luckily, I can work from home, so for me, it's not the worst thing.
And your wife would have to get a ride to work.
Also, well, yeah, I mean, fortunately for us, we are a 10-minute walk from a grocery store.
Oh, you're like
5-minute walk, a 10-minute walk from our vet. We're relatively close to some things, so we're very fortunate. But I couldn't get to the doctor. I'd have to call an Uber, I guess.
Well, exactly. You know what I mean? So like I could get one of my kids on a bus, but my other kid goes to school that doesn't have a bus. So it's like I don't know how the hell I'd get him to school. There isn't a grocery anywhere near us within walking distance. It'd be a long bicycle about that. So yeah, it's like, yeah, if my car suddenly died tomorrow or didn't want to work, and then sometimes I wonder, like, so my car's ratting me out because I'm near the mileage, and so I'm being texted, like, oh, you should really get your car is saying you're good. And I'm like, okay, well, they do that thing in cars where like you start to get the window that pops up that's like, hey, you should get service soon, and in the beginning it pops up just when you start the car, and then after a while it randomly pops up while you're driving, and then all of a sudden you can't look at the info screen at all for more than 2 seconds because it's just a constant, well, what if you ignore that altogether? How long does that go? And will at some point in the future they'll be like, no, you can't run your car anymore, you're not getting it fixed? Or will they let you run your car into the ground because they'll have to fix it? Right? I mean, like, how does that go? I said to my wife, I was like, don't be surprised if in the next 10 years I buy like a 1960s, 1970s like truck and just get it, modern, built up, turn it into like a nice classic car. And she's like, really? Like you and a classic truck? And I'm like, I don't know. I get it. It doesn't seem logical at all. I was like, but I will do it because those cars are built to be revamped and survive. It's like, and I'm sure at some point, I'm sure in some distant future, someone will figure out, like I said, how to hack Teslas and get these things running. But it's pretty scary when it's like it's like a hack. What do they call it? A Hackintosh? Is that what it is? A Hackintosh when you run Windows on a Mac?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's basically
right. So so like, oh, I've got a Hackintosh, but you don't want to run your servers off a Hackintosh or your business off a Hackintosh, right? And that's the thing. Oh, my car, the software died, but that's okay because I got this other software. So I'm running, instead of Tesla, I'm running. It's an awful name for a hacked Tesla. A Hesla.
What's a bad name for a Tesla? Cybertruck. Oh wait, that's a real thing.
The cyber crap, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You have to hack the software, and again, then that becomes a whole other kind of danger because if your car gets bricked, you have every right to try to figure out some way to get that car running. But that doesn't necessarily make it safer for the rest of us when you're running some kind of pirated software to get your car running. Yeah. And the fact that you're going to have to do that if something goes wrong with this company, it's like, yeah, that sucks. That sucks a lot. Someone should look into that. So, the article by Doctorow is very interesting. I linked it to Joe, so you should have it, I guess, in the notes.
That's the show. Yep.
We still have notes. There you
go. No, I put everything in there.
But yeah, if you looked up Cory Doctorow, Brick Fisker. Sounds like a bad guy
Brisker.
in a movie, doesn't it?
Brisker.
Brick Fisker.
The Brisker.
That article should pop up somewhere in the Googles. Brick Fisker. I just have this vision
Special
now.
Agent Brick Fisker.
Of just like this greasy character. Don't worry, I'll get them for you because I'm Brick Fisker.
I'm Special Agent Brick Fisker.
Yeah, and then the porno version will be Brick Fister, right?
Oh boy, Speculum Agent Brick Fister.
So, but jokes aside, yeah, it's kind of crap, and it is one of the larger problems with making everything software because when the companies break down with the server, I mean, this is the whole. We don't want you to have a game that you can play at home. We want a game that's attached to our service at all times. And you're like, well, that works really well when a game like, what was the Sony game Vanguard that came out? Where they pulled Concord. They pulled the whole game, and it's like, okay, well, now there's no servers. So if you bought that game, you're fucked. Right? There's nowhere to play it. I mean, this is the same with, what's the one that I like playing? Overwatch. If they shut down the servers for Overwatch, it doesn't matter if you have that on your computer or on your PlayStation. The game is dead. And there's a lot of games like that. Now, Overwatch is kind of an extreme version because you're using their servers to connect to other players, right? But like, isn't there early on they had that always on feature for the Assassin's Creed games, and people were pissed about that because if you lost your internet connection, you couldn't play the game that was located on your drive locally. And I don't know if they ever changed that. Did they? Or did they just say, fuck you, that's how we're doing it now?
Oh, no, they changed it. No, they updated it.
Okay. So it's like, well, at least
now, don't get me wrong.
There
are still games like that, but not theirs.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, iTunes.
But it still happens.
I utilize iTunes. If iTunes doesn't check in, like if you go dead terminal and iTunes doesn't check in for a while, eventually your music stops working. Eventually it sits there and says, hey, we have to update your licenses. So, you got to log in. And you look at that and you're like, yeah, that's the moment where you realize, hey guys, you don't really own your music. And it's like all it takes is, I mean, there you go. There's an example. Apple dies, you can't get your iTunes to check in with their servers because the servers aren't air anymore, and your music is all gone. So now you're playing this game. Hey, will Apple outlive you, or will you outlive Apple without your music?
You either
like
die
that?
A hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
I don't know if that necessarily applies.
That applies to any company that has your stuff in the cloud. That's what they're saying to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had to explain
because
this to
eventually they will have that grip on you, and when something doesn't work, you'll realize you have no other option. So.
Yeah, and that's why I never got rid of my original database of music. There's a lot of people that when things went to the cloud, they were like, "Oh, I don't need to have all this shit on my computer anymore," and they really just, I know people who threw out their music collections because they were like, "Oh, it's all in the cloud now. I don't need to store it." Right? And I sit there and I look at them and I'm like, "Yeah, but your music collection is gonna be gone one day. All it takes is one financial crash, guys." It's like if Apple actually goes down, which I'm not saying they will, but if they do, they're going to take down a lot of shit with them. Because if those servers are gone, oh my God. The amount of people who use iCloud. Could you imagine that?
I have a simple two-step process for when I buy music. Step one
Yeah.
is download the lossless zip file and immediately put it into my cloud backup and on my hard drive.
And
Step
don't
two
buy
is
it
I
from
download
iTunes.
no, you can buy it from iTunes, but get a copy that you can use offline. You can then download the music. It's not as good. I like the FLAC files or lossless.
No, but no. Yeah, but those files have a license on them.
Uh-huh.
They have to check in.
Hold on.
Okay.
In that
sorry.
case, you run them through a program called Adapter, which is a free program
okay.
that
There you
will
go.
convert them into non-licensed versions. It's
Yep.
very easy.
Thank you very much. Right there.
Yep.
Right there is the answer, everybody. So
I do the same thing with my ebooks. Any Kindle file can be cracked by Caliber, so you have your own copy of a book. So
this is probably the most helpful show I think we've done in a while. Right there.
you're welcome, everyone. You're welcome. And look, the reality is, we legal disclaimer: we are not advocating piracy. However, we are advocating that if you buy something, it's yours. Therefore,
Oh, you know what? Hold
every
on.
single thing can be cracked.
Let me legally save you on this. If for some reason those companies should die, you should be allowed to crack those files and keep them, because that company will no longer exist. It's the same way that if someone figures out how to crack the software on the Fisker cars, good, do it.
Well, that's the thing, is that should be illegal. That's what I mean, is that's going to have to be legislated at some point. That if you purchase a car and that car is not in a condition that makes it unsafe to drive, that it will have to be allowed to at least be repaired or made to work.
I want to put this into an 80s reference for you, right? Do you remember the movie Cherry 3000?
Of course I do.
Imagine if when he got to the Cherry 3000, he put the disc in and she didn't work because that company had died and they took the software with them. And the
Right.
sex bots were just dead. And that's
I
the
mean,
thing.
technically, they'd still be usable in a form, but
Yeah, but only for like necrophilia. And that's the thing, is the 80s vision of the future did not take into account this level of corporate greed and lack of care for the customer. Oh, if we die, I mean, this is like if a clothing company was like, oh, when we die, all your clothing disintegrates. Ha 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 ha. You know what I mean? Like, that's essentially what it is. If something happens to us, everything you ever bought from us is rendered useless. And you're like, oh, yeah, you know what? I think maybe I don't want to go so software-based anymore. Like, I hate to sound like a Luddite, but, there is an argument to be made for how about the most important things in life having sort of a mechanical backup? Like, I've always been surprised that there isn't kind of a... there's no safe mode for the Tesla. Like, if your software gets fucked, it's not like you can still use that thing. It doesn't have a backup thing where you can just start the engine and go, because it's all electrical, right? And this is kind of my, and I will say this with a grain of salt. This is my issue with electric cars. I love the idea of electric cars. I want it to work, right? I really do. I do like that idea of an electric car future. I do still acknowledge also that when you plug it into the wall, you're still using conventional electricity from a power plant somewhere, which could be powered by coal. So it's not as clean as you think it is. But I love the idea of figuring out a clean energy alternative to gas, right? But the downside is still that these vehicles, like, when they had the hurricane in Fort Myers that kind of swept through there, not this most recent one, I think it was like 2 hurricanes ago, there were all these Teslas that got flooded. Actually, no, anything with a battery got flooded and they caught fire and they were rendered completely useless. There was like hundreds of cars that were just bricked and destroyed, right? Because you know what happens when you put these batteries in salt water? Fuego. They don't like
not good
it.
stuff.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, they have these vehicles, but they're not really designed for the real world to some extent, for all the fucked up things that can happen. And I know this is the early days of it. Like, that's the thing we forget, is that as far as you think Teslas or the Rivians have come, this is early days, right? I mean, yeah, 20 years from now, these things are going to be far more amazing. But there are still these glaring problems that no one's really addressed. And Fisker has shown if the company doesn't make it, neither does your car. You know, it's like now you have a brick. And how much did you pay? I mean, I think they said their cars went for like $40,000 to $70,000. Imagine that. Let's say you're on the low end. Your $40,000 car is now a brick. Everything works. Tires are good. Everything in the car works as a car, but the software's dead, so go fuck yourself. And it's like, yeah, that's not fair at all. And I know you can be like, well, you know, early adapters,
Early adopters, but close.
Early adopters. That's the early adopters. That's the pain. That's the sadness of early adopters. And I sit there and I look at that and I go, shit. If this is the way things go, I really am afraid of when they start trying to put software in people's heads, because Musk has got his whole fucking neurochip thing, and I have read horror stories over how badly that shit went in fucking primate trials, right? And I think they've got that in a person now. And I'm kind of like, you really want, like, for lack of a better phrase, you really want Tesla technology in your, I know it's not Tesla, but it's this idea that, like, I don't want any software, any technology in my body. Now, if my options are that or death, then yeah, I'll take that. But I wouldn't actively put this technology in my body as it is right now, because there's no safe mode for this stuff. There's no end goal for what you as a customer do when the company's not there. Their whole plan is basically go fuck yourself. We don't care. Pay us. Because you know, if our company doesn't exist, then we don't give a shit. And you have to look at that and say, then maybe I shouldn't buy these products. If you as a company are not going to address what happens to me when you're gone, then maybe I shouldn't give you my money in the first place. And that's,
I would say that's a very fair consideration to have.
I know, but then the problem is, what do you do about electric cars?
No, stop. No, that's not the problem.
Okay.
The solution is that if people actually, you know, would take the bare minimum of action, they would tell legislators and demand that there is legislation that forbids this from happening. These companies do not exist in a vacuum. So it's not, oh, what do we do about electric cars? It's, okay, we have to establish that you can't do this as an electric car company. Yeah. So if there are companies that do this now, that commit to it, support them. And if nobody does it, then you demand it. Don't become fatalistic about it.
We'll see. We'll see what this country looks like in, what is it, a week?
Well, I mean, yes. It may have to wait a while. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't control what's going to happen. Actually, no, it'll be this week.
Oh,
well, no, I guess you're right. No, you're right. Though it probably won't be for at least a couple weeks, though, because I'm sure there will be demands for recounts and everything else. So, yeah, it's going to be a whole thing.
It is going to be a whole thing.
It's going to be a whole thing.
But you know, outside of that, yeah, we deserve better. And you know what? I think a lot of lately with society, I look around and I go, you know what? We deserve better. Yeah, we deserve better than that. We deserve better companies than that. We as a society, we as a human society, deserve better than what some of these corporations are giving us. And the only way... Go ahead.
You have to amend that.
Yeah?
Problem is, deserve is a word that doesn't mean anything. The phrase should be, we deserve and must demand better than this.
Oh, no. But that's what I was about to say, is that, and the only way for us to get that is to basically make our voice heard about it, is to make an effort.
Well, but the problem is,
they're not going to give it to us for free.
Well, that's what I think people think deserve means now. Yeah. Is that, oh, well, it's just going to happen because it should. That's not how it works.
No. When I say deserve, I mean that we should demand more from the things that are being provided. I mean, and I know there's an argument where like, oh, you're so spoiled. You got an electric car and you know, and you want it to work underwater. Oh,
well, no. This applies to everything, because you're right. If you purchase something, You should own that thing, and it should operate as long as you own it.
No, but they've got
whether
these
it's
creative
supported by the
licenses
company or you do
where
it. That's
where
the
the
reality.
EULA says, "Hey, you bought our computer, so if ever your wife dies because the computer falls on our head, it's not our fault because you signed that your wife can die in our EULA, and it's totally cool." And you know what? I know that Disney backtracked that pretty quick, but other corporations are pushing that now. Have you seen that?
Well,
the whole
did
EULA
you
thing
see
is
that
coming up?
I did see that, but you see that California has a bill that will make you be told that you are only leasing it, not buying it, so you know the difference.
Oh my God, that'd be awesome. But you know what?
It's
But
gone
honestly,
into-
if they do that, I don't know if I'll buy anything at that point.
well, but the difference is you would know, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that it's made clear.
Yeah, and
So
you know
yeah,
what?
so here's an example. When you visit the Microsoft Store and click the buy button to purchase, say, Minecraft, you're not actually buying the game, but licensing it. That license can be revoked by the company at any time. Same goes for movies, ebooks, other types of digital content. The new California law will make digital storefronts tell you up front that you're only getting a license to use the media, not actually owning it.
Yeah.
So they will not be able. This, I think, is the big one. It will ban companies from using words like buy or purchase if you are not getting it without a license
Enough.
attached.
Yeah, actually getting it. Yeah.
And that, I think, by itself will make people have to, when they look at the word and see that it's not buy,
Well,
it's rent or lease, I think it will change.
Here's
things.
a question for you, right? So I'm running on a Mac, right? Now I know that my iTunes won't work if it doesn't check in, right? But
Correct.
will my Mac die? Like, if it doesn't check in, will it get to a point where
Nope.
the software goes?
Nope.
So it will work
No.
regardless of whether it checks in or not.
If
make
you are
a dead
completely
terminal.
offline, the only thing you
Yeah.
lose is updates. So if there was a
But-
major
but
security
honestly-
update,
Yeah, but you don't need the security if you're a dead terminal.
well, that's true. I was going to say the only problem with that is if somebody actually gets hold of your computer and you have antiquated something on there.
Yeah,
that's
that's-
all.
that's
But
all
no,
that
your Mac. No. At this point,
Yeah, 'cause I couldn't
so
remember if they
let's-
changed anything
Let's put
like
this.
that,
Let's
but
put this very clear asterisk
Yeah.
next to this. As of this recording, no. Because, that again, people just assume that things are going to be like that forever. But I will remind you,
No,
either
things are
die a
never
hero,
things.
or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
just imagine every company that you buy something from saying
Yeah.
that. That's the reality. So right now, as of us talking, no. Next week, I can't tell you for sure.
And let me tell you, this is why I still believe in print media. This is why I still believe in published books. This is why I still want hard copy. I find that the greedy direction the technology is going makes me want to use the technology less. And there's a part of me that worries that this is like an old guy thing, like I'm getting older. I'm like, I don't like technology as much because I'm getting older. But I sit there and go, no, I'm not. I want to use the technology. It's a lot of fun. Listen, iTunes is super convenient. You know what it used to take to get music in the past? I had to drive down to Tower Records. I had to go looking for stuff. Sometimes they had things I could listen to, or they had little sample areas. But there was a lot of blind albums that I bought, and even though I could rip the stuff on my computer, you still ended up buying a whole album that you didn't really want for 3 songs, right? Like,
or when we had like the Diamond Rio players where you had to pick what 7 songs you wanted to fit on that.
you were playing for the day. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I liked that. I did like that because there was a certain level of I'm curating the soundtrack to my day. Let's see if I get it right.
No, no, that part, yes. But in other words, if you had to rip all the albums and then you couldn't necessarily fit the entire album onto
No,
the
you could
damn
fit like
player.
10 songs, and if they were all 320s, maybe you couldn't
Do
get
you-
them all
I
on
was
there
going to
anyway.
say, do you remember when you would
Yeah.
have to make a judgment on whether a song could sound okay at half the bit rate so that you could fit one more
You
song?
could get it all on there, yeah. That's what I'm saying. iTunes is very convenient. I love this technology. Listen, I grew up reading Cyberpunk. I fucking love this shit. But the more we get into this age, which is the cyberpunk age, the more these corporations, the more these companies, the more these software companies get fucking greedy, and they get greedier and greedier, and they try to figure out how to get money out of you at every turn, and how to turn all the technology they sell you against you. My fucking car ratted me out to the dealership because it wants to be serviced, right? And it's like, that's not the kind of relationship I have with my car. I run my car into the ground if I fucking feel like it, and I don't want anyone giving me reproach about it. But now, that's not the age we live in, and that pisses me off. And my response to that is to not use the technology. And it's not an old guy thing. It's no, I don't want that kind of user experience. I don't want to have to be sitting there going, "Oh, I don't really own this. I'm just kind of renting it from you." You know, like, no, I don't like that
This is
at all.
why I will reiterate that any type of digital content that you can get a copy of anywhere can be broken of its DM. Of its DRM. So you do not have to put up. You don't have to give up the convenience. You just have to take an extra step. So I'm just telling everybody that there are numerous programs that are free that will do all this stuff for you. You can keep a copy.
In the face of crippling greed, the only option is to become a pirate.
No. That's not. Again, that's why I'm saying that is not true.
No. But it is, because if you buy a product, right? Let's say you buy a song from a company, right? And they're like, "Oh, we just licensed that to you," and you're like, "Yeah, but I bought it." And then that company goes, tits up, right? And now you have this locked file. I have the right to pirate that file, unlock it, and play it. Your company is dead. The file is mine.
I don't think that's considered piracy.
I think that's still considered piracy.
I think if it's not possible, if you paid for it and can no longer access it, I believe that's still. I think that's
ask
legal.
the internet, because I'm curious if that is an act of piracy.
DRM on a.
Yeah, it's the wording. You get the wording right.
No longer purchasable. Illegal. Let's just look. All right, DRM cracking. Let's take a look. Oh boy, here we go. Okay. DRM cracking, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. Introduce. I know that. I understand. Where the ethics. Here we are.
Is it an ethics or is it a crime?
Well, I'm trying to see what the risks. Is illegal in most countries. Okay, well that doesn't really answer the direct question. So that's.
All right, so this is interesting.
Oh, there was a legal decision in 2018 that said that is legally.
There's a term for this. Abandonware. Have you ever heard this?
Yes. That's what we're trying to figure out.
It is a product, typically software, ignored by its owners and manufacturer, which can no longer be found for sale and for which no official support is available and cannot be bought.
Okay.
But if you hack abandonware, it is still illegal. So you have, but this doesn't answer our question, which is, what if a company is gone? It has to be like the company no longer exists.
Yeah.
And that's what this doesn't. You know what? I don't think it's a crime. You might be right.
I have a hunch.
If there's no one being wronged,
if you were to go to court, you would. Yes, exactly. Yeah. If there is no.
Unless someone bought the
What's
license.
The other one? Plaintiff or whatever.
No, but unless someone bought the license after the fact, like if the company died and someone came in and like bought all their assets or something like that. And suddenly they owned it. Because, they have that with movie rights where you're like, oh, Jesus, who owns the movie rights for this movie or something like that? And you're like, oh, this is owned by Chuck Norris. And you're like, why does Chuck Norris own the rights to this? Well, he picked it up at an auction or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Here it is. Yes, it is legal.
It?
In 2018, United States Congress has ruled it is now legal to circumvent DRM in certain circumstances. One is that the ruling states that archivists will be allowed to modify games that have been legally bought or downloaded whose devs or copyright owners have shut down servers. Essentially, as long as it will only be played in a personal, local, or preservative manner, i.e. a video game museum, and no one's making money from it, the games can be rebooted even after they've been shut down by developers. There you go.
Yeah, so as long as you're not turning it into a business, you're fine to do it.
There you go. That's it. I had a hunch that if there was no... So that's what I'm saying is,
Now here's the question. What do we do about the cars?
Well, that's interesting because there was a law proposed that would stop this, but I don't think it went through.
Does that make Concord abandonware? Yeah, it would. Anything that's...
Well, probably not, in that Sony probably still owns the IP.
Oh, no, but abandonware is still owned.
Hold on.
No, abandonware is a product, or typically software, ignored by its owner and manufacturer, which can no longer be found for sale and for which no official support is available and cannot be bought. That's Concord. But did they sell physical copies of Concord?
No, I think they delisted it. But I would say that if you set up a server and no money is being made through it, then it is probably legal. The problem would be that I have a hunch that you would have to re-engineer Concord not to use Sony's kind of server matchmaking stuff. And if you can't do that, you wouldn't be able to use Sony stuff.
So they sold physical versions of Concord. So if you're sitting there with a physical copy of Concord, you could build it on your own server. You'd have to do quite a bit of work to get it to work. But.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that simple, or if you have to sort of re-engineer the game itself.
Yeah, to some degree.
Because if it relies on Sony giving it a specific answer, not even just a specific answer, but if it relies on you going through you could probably do it, but would it be worth it? I guess.
Well, if you were someone who is if you were an otaku who was obsessed with the idea, yes.
Yeah, I would guess that even if they were to sue you, my guess is you'd be fine.
Well, you didn't make any money off of it. So
that's the thing.
If you opened an arcade where everyone could come in and play Concord on your servers, right?
Yes, then you'd be in trouble.
It's a crime, right?
Yeah,
unless Sony is dead, and then it doesn't matter because the company no longer exists.
Yeah.
But even still, I still stand by the idea that these corporations are going to treat you like shit. Then maybe treat them like shit as well.
I agree.
Like I have no respect for these companies. They don't respect me at all as a user. Therefore, I'm not going to respect them as a customer. This doesn't mean that I don't need their technologies, their features.
Right.
But it is a negative, abusive relationship, I think.
I agree.
So, that said, what have you got for me?
Okay. Oh, what are we at time-wise? Oh, no, we're actually doing very well. Wow, this may be a sub 2 hour. Holy crap. Okay. So, well, we're only at an hour 15, and I don't know that I'm going to be talking about this movie for 45 minutes. Not because it isn't worth talking. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Anyway,
are we trying? Is it? Does anybody?
No. It's just that no one has. I'm just saying typically when you say what do you have, and I look down, we're at least an hour and a half in.
Which is so funny because I so often show up with nothing.
I know. That's. Oh, okay. Damn it! Now I have to get. Hold on. I have to make a note. Hold on.
What's that?
I have to get the Joker saying, "That's the gag." Chances are I'm going to cut that part off, but hold on. I have to make that note. Hold on a minute. So, get Nicholson, Joker. That's the gag clip. To go along with maybe, possibly, perhaps. No. I need to get all these because we keep having uses for these things. All right, got it. Okay, so as is now the case again, not consecutively, but I was wandering through Shudder, the horror streaming service, just to see what was on there, and somehow yet again came across a movie that I don't think you could really describe as a horror film. The description that I've most commonly seen is erotic black comedy. I'm not sure. I'm serious. Jeez. I don't know that I even think it's a black comedy. I think it's just a
black comedy. Okay, what's it
it's
called?
a BDSM love story. It's called Dogs Don't Wear Pants from 2019. And what caught my eye was a picture of one of the main characters.
Is this the dog shoe thing?
No, dogs don't wear pants.
No, I know that. But did you see the poster where the dog is the high heel shoe?
Oh no, I didn't see that poster. Hold on, I always saw the one where she's holding like the riding crop or whatever. Hold on,
turns into a high heel shoe.
Hold on, let me see.
It popped
is
up
this
in the
on
image
IMDb?
Search. No, I went to
you did
Google
image search.
And
all right, hold
on.
Let
It popped right up.
Let me see.
I figured that poster tickled the hell out of
you. Oh no, that's. Well, that is the movie, but no, that's not the poster I saw. The poster I saw is the IMDb
the cover
poster.
For the DVD copy on Amazon.
I actually like the regular poster better. I think
it
caught
lady
my eye
with the riding crop?
Yes, because she was so striking looking.
With the red background?
Yes, with the red. There's a lot of redness, which I also like. So the movie itself, so I'm like, I looked at that poster, and then I read the basic synopsis, and I was like, okay, this is probably not for me, but I'll start it and just see what I think. And I started watching it, and it became very clear right away that it was not at all what I thought it was going to be. It really is. I don't think it's a black comedy. I think it's a very, at least sincerely intentioned love story about two people who could not find anybody who understood them in a
Is this like The Secretary in that respect?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah.
Or
Actually,
like
that's a good
there's a lot
comparison.
of people who watch The Secretary and they're like, I don't understand the relationship between that.
Yes, I think that's exactly right. So these are two people who, I don't want to use the word normal, but a normal relationship is simply not something that works for them. The typical life that most people lead is not going to lead to happiness for them. So it starts off, and the main character's name is Juha, I think is how you're supposed to. Or Juha, I don't know if Finnish is different. I don't know. I don't know the pronunciation. And in the movie, they're
Juha?
speaking so rapidly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that I couldn't really catch what his name was. They don't say his name all that often, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, he starts off
what?
and he.
You know why I think this is labeled as a horror movie? Because I think
Yeah.
to the straights, this comes off like a
Well,
horrible thing.
There are 4 things that I actually had to stop looking at 2 points because
The thing with his nail, I saw the bit
yes,
with his nail.
that's
a bit
rough because
crap.
I had to pull my big toenail off and it's not fun, so I couldn't
very
really watch that.
graphic.
Yes, and then when she pulls one of his teeth out, that was a little rough too because there's no
Oh,
anesthetic
so
involved.
they go that far. Okay.
Yeah, that's the ending is interesting. That particular segment. So starts off, it's the surgeon, his daughter, and his wife, and they're at a lake house, and he's up in a room reading, and the daughter and the wife are outside, and he falls asleep, and then he wakes up, and his daughter's crying, and he immediately knows something's wrong, runs down, doesn't see the wife anywhere, dives into the lake, and she got caught in a fishing net and drowned. So then it cuts to 7 years later, and he is basically completely dead to the world. Like he's still doing his job. He's still a very good surgeon. He lives with his daughter, but he's completely emotionally sealed off. Like he responds to nothing. And then there's a scene where you see him take this bag out of the closet, and out of the bag he takes a dress, which is clearly his wife's, and perfume, which was clearly his wife's, and he puts the bag over his head, sprays the dress with perfume, and jerks off. And that's as much as he does anything. Until he brings his daughter, who is now, this is 7 years later, she's in high school. He brings his daughter to get her tongue pierced, even though she almost immediately takes it out. So I don't know if it was just like a rebellion thing or what. They don't really explain that, but it's fine. He takes her to get her tongue pierced, and the place that's doing the piercing parlor, or whatever they call it, the tongue piercer, the piercing, what do they call that? Just a piercer? I don't know what that's called.
It's
Whatever it
piercing
is.
Studio. It's a piercing. Yeah.
Sure, it's that's it. Studio. That's what I was going for, not parlor. Parlor makes it sound like a magician.
Well, it could be a parlor as well. You can have a tattoo
Well, I
parlor
think
or
of
a
tattoo
studio.
parlor as opposed to piercing studio is better.
It could be either or.
I like studio. It flows better. It makes it nice and distinct. So piercing studio, and he happens to kind of look down the hallway, and it so happens that the piercing studio is at the kind of front for where this woman works as a dominatrix. And so he kind of hears like something going on, and he sort of wanders back because it's not really closed off. And he wanders back, and he sees this leather suit, which I can only describe as I think it's almost like supposed to be a Iron Maiden type of suit, where there's all these spikes coming out of it, and he's kind of fascinated by it. And it's a person's in it, just sitting there. So it's obviously in some kind of session. I don't know what's going on because I don't know enough about BDSM, but obviously the person's wearing the suit for a reason. And so he goes up and he goes to touch it, at which point the woman, Mona, slaps his hand, knocks him down, and that causes him to like fracture his nail. And when he does it, he has like this reaction to the pain, and he gets this glimpse of something, and it's underwater. You could tell it's like underwater. And so he realizes that the pain like did something, like it got him to respond. The idea that when people get to a certain point, they have to do something extreme to feel like they're actually alive.
It opened him up to experience some level of the trauma process.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. It made him progress just a bit. And so he comes back, and he basically starts to, he hires this woman to start to do things so that he can try to figure out what will work. And what eventually he figures out is that being strangled causes him to hallucinate. There doesn't seem to be a sexual aspect to it, which is the interesting part. This is definitely, because you never see anything in terms of a sexual response. It's all that the longer she strangles, the longer she cuts off his oxygen, the longer he sees the hallucination where he and his wife are together under the water. And so he keeps telling her, you have to strangle me longer, you have to strangle me longer. And so she gives him a glass ball to hold and puts a pan underneath it so that if she hears the ball drop, she knows that he's in danger. So, when he drops the ball, she immediately takes the thing off so that he can breathe again. Which is, I don't know if that's real or not, because I know I've read a lot of comments that are like, okay, if you're really into BDSM, this movie has a lot of problems. I'm like, I'm sure it does, but I'm not, so it works for me because it's just telling a story. It's okay. Like, my experience with BDSM is very surface level in that I've seen some stuff, but I've never actually done anything. So, yes, if you are somebody who is well-versed in BDSM, you are going to find technical fault in the movie. Just know that going in.
If you're an expert in anything, the cinematic version is always going to bother you, period.
Yes. I can't watch a band in a movie or a TV show where there's a drummer because I can tell they're not actually playing the drums in 19 times out of 20. So, yes, same thing. So, again, if you're coming into this, understand that it's not about the technical details being right, it's about the story being told. So, as this is going on, he is starting to display more and more signs of what's being done to him at work. And
so that people can see that he's getting the crap kicked out of him.
Well, yeah, and he's also becoming fixated on it because, like, he's ignoring things at work. He doesn't care about, like, his daughter's. She's in a band and they're playing, and he misses it. And like she sees him the next morning, completely naked in bed with a bag over his head because he tried to do it to himself and it didn't work. And so people are noticing something is wrong. Like at work, he's suspended and they want to do a psych eval on him, but he doesn't care. All he cares about is getting Mona to strangle him for longer and longer. And
so what is he trying to get to?
Well, that's the thing that isn't really clear until she does it for too long, and he then goes into cardiac arrest. But while he's in cardiac arrest, he sees, like, he and the wife, embrace under the water. Like, it finally does it all the way.
Yeah.
Or almost, just close to it where he can actually reach out and touch her. And then she manages to do CPR and bring him back. And she says, that's it. I'm not working with, because she realizes that he tricked her. What he did with he put, I think, like, glue on his hand so that the ball couldn't drop, so that she didn't know. And she says, so she realizes that he's trying to just keep going and going, and he's going to end up killing himself. So she says, that's it. I'm not going to do this with you anymore. And so she basically cuts him off. And now he starts stalking her. Not stalking her in a threatening way, but he's just trying to talk to her to explain what's going on. And so then he follows her one night, and she goes into this club, and they won't let him in, and he doesn't know what the club is. We'll find out at the end. It's a BDSM club. It's not really that hard to figure out, but basically he doesn't know what it is. So then, like, he sits out in his car and waits until he thinks he sees her come out of that club, and then he's running up to her to talk to her, and it's not her. It's a guy who turns around and pepper sprays him, and then, kicks him a couple times. So now he's in a neck brace at work, and, he comes home, and the daughter is like, why are you in the bathroom? And he's like, I ate something funny at dinner, and my stomach's upset. And he's, like, crying and all this shit because he's been pepper sprayed. So everybody knows something is going on, right? So then there's a point where that he decides, okay, maybe I can make this work with somebody else. So the daughter was trying to set him up with her music teacher, and the music teacher seemed to be very into him. Oh, yeah. So he goes on a date with her, and she's like, all right, well, let's go back to my place. And he's like, okay. And in the car, before they drop there, he's like, oh, I brought you a gift. And it's the wife's perfume, and the woman's very flattered because she doesn't know what it is. So she's like, oh, perfume, that's nice. Nobody's given me perfume on a first date before. And, of course, we as the audience know where this is going. And so they get back. They get into bed, and he's like, oh, would you mind putting on that perfume? Because it smells really nice. Oh, yeah, sure. So she puts it on, but she doesn't put enough on. And then he takes her hand, and he's putting her hand on his throat, which is all fucked up and raw because he got beat up and because his neck is all screwed up, so it's all red, and she starts laughing at him because she thinks it's ridiculous. And I was like, oh no, he's gonna like flip out and beat her to death or something. Like, this is gonna go so wrong.
Oh,
and he doesn't.
No, I feel like he's gonna have a nervous breakdown. Is what's gonna happen.
No, interestingly, he just realizes, no, this isn't it. She's not a professional. And he just basically says, yeah, sorry, this isn't going to work. And he just leaves because he understands that only somebody who knows what they're doing can do what he needs them to do. So he ends up following her again, but this time he goes to her apartment. And she says, what are you doing here? And he says, look, just hear me out. He's like, all I want you to do is you have to strangle me one more time, but you have to really just let it go as far as you can while keeping me alive. And I will let you do anything you want to me. And she's like, really? He's like, yes, anything. And she's like, okay, come up here. I'm going to pull out one of your teeth. You let me do that and I'll do it. I think as a test to see if he'll do it, because she starts to pull it and he starts like screaming and she's like, do you want to stop? And he's like, no. She's like, all right, then you have to keep quiet because somebody's going to think I'm killing you in here. And so he does keep quiet as she pulls out one of his teeth.
Oh,
so she does pull it out. And he says, all right, a deal's a deal. Like his face is all fucked up. And so she starts to choke him. And then she says, wait a minute. She like stops it because she realizes he's dying again. She's like, you just want me to kill you because that's the only way this will work. And then when she takes the mask off, or she takes cling wrap. She's got cling wrap on him. And she takes it off, and then she starts crying into his shoulder because and this is the thing that I think is part of me is can't connect with this specific mindset because there is something now between them. So they kind of kiss a little bit, and then she gets up and walks away, and he reads that as she's rejecting him. So he gets up and he walks out, and then you see her come out of the other room, and she's got this dress that he gave her, which was one of his wife's dresses. And then at one point she was wearing when she peed on him because he cut his hand or something like that. And so she was actually going to put the dress on for him. And so you realize that now she's kind of got something for him too. And this is towards the end of the movie, so I'm like, okay, where is this going to end? Like, what is the ending for this? Because I really wasn't sure.
Yeah, because where will it end for him?
Okay, well, this is where it gets to, right? So then the next day, he sees his daughter is at school, and he goes up to the daughter, and
just really quick, you know what this kind of reminds me of to some extent?
Yeah.
Remember that movie Fearless with Jeff Bridges?
Yes. Yeah.
How he survives the crash, and he feels like he's basically not. He's a ghost almost like that. And
yes. He's a leftover or whatever.
He keeps pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until finally he gets to that point where he needs someone to save him, and his wife basically catches him eating strawberries, and that's the thing is that he's technically allergic to them, and then it's almost like her trying to save him triggers it, and she saves him, and suddenly he feels like he's not dead anymore. I'm just thinking about.
Yeah, and when she does the thing where she says, before she goes to get the dress, where she takes the cling wrap off, that's the first time where she shows anything other than kind of the traditional dominatrix thing where she's like ordering him around and all this stuff. When she cries and like leans into him, I think that's the point where something changes. And so the next day he goes to the school where his daughter is. Or he passes his psych eval. And the guy who's there with him says, how'd you pass it? And he's like, oh, simple. I just lied to them. And I don't know whether it's meant to be a joke or whether he just kind of came up with an explanation. It's difficult for me to know because it's subtitled. I can't read what the inflection is. So some people think that means he actually was lying, and other people think it's because he's crossed this point now where he has started to move forward, and so he passed it because he's not the same way he was before. And what would support that is after the hospital, he goes to the school where his daughter is. And like I said, the whole time he's been very closed off towards her and very cold. Caring as a father, but not affectionate. And he goes to the school and he says, hey, do you want to go to the Natural History Museum like we used to when you were little? And she's like, well, no, I've got a date with this guy, and there's a guy there on a motorcycle. But before she walks off, he hugs her, which he has not done anything like that throughout the rest of the movie. And he hugs her, and then she goes off with the boyfriend. And then the next thing that you see is like that night or the next night, he goes back to that same club and knocks on the thing. There's like a little guy, behind the sliding window or whatever that opens it up. And he looks at him and he opens his jacket and he's got his bondage gear on underneath. And then the guy lets him in. And that's when you see that, in fact, it's a BDSM nightclub. And so he goes in and you see, guys being led around on all the typical stuff you would associate with BDSM, what it is. And they're all dancing and they're having a good time. And so he goes into the middle of the room and he's kind of lost at first. And he's looking around and you get the idea he's looking for her. And she's not there. And then he's kind of just standing there for a minute in the middle of the dance floor with everybody dancing around him. And then he takes his jacket off where he's just wearing the bondage gear. And then he starts to dance and then he starts to smile and then he's really dancing like he's now happy which again, I don't think he smiled the whole movie up to this point, except for the very beginning. You don't see him ever smiling or happy. And so he's dancing very awkwardly, which is funny, but I think it's because he doesn't know how to, like, he's trying to figure out how to be a person again. It's been 7 years where he's been in this kind of emotional cocoon. And so he's dancing around, and he looks over, and Mona walks in and looks at him, and he smiles at her, and you see the missing tooth, but he's like really smiling at her. And then she smiles back, and then the movie cuts to black. And I think it's a very endearing film for the subject matter. I was very happy with the ending because it certainly suggests. No, it's not a horror movie. I don't think it's a black comedy. I think it's just. I think it's two people who live different lives finding each other. Well, and I thought it was very sweet in its way, outside the tooth pulling thing.
Here's my only kind of counter based on what you're saying. Because you don't know what Mona's like, you don't know if this is Mona's thing necessarily.
Oh, okay. I should say, you do get to see. So Mona is a physical therapist who helps people with that have been in accidents and can't walk, like physical therapy. So you see her in her normal life. She's very supportive and nurturing towards her patients. I forgot to leave that in because you see it a couple of times.
Is she actually like a dom?
No. Well, okay.
Because the thing is, remember, there's somebody that we both know who worked as a dom and in reality was not a dom at all.
That was my sense because there's somebody. There's the person who does the piercing is kind of her almost like front office person or whatever, like directs certain things. And she's talking to her and she says, do you ever wish you were doing something a little bit more ordinary? And she says something to the effect of, yeah, but then again, ordinary life doesn't really work for me. So it feels like, but when you see her in her non-dom life, she is very encouraging and very supportive. Like I said, her day job.
Oh, I know, but here's the thing: you're almost implying that you can't be nurturing and be a dominatrix. You can. It's just that they never establish whether she finds gratification in it or if it is a job.
Well, okay, I was going to get to that. And there's one part where they show her, and he's not involved in this one. So then there's one thing that was after that conversation. Then there's something where she has two clients, and the one is laying down on the floor and has candles on his back burning, and like he's being burned by the wax. And then there's a woman in that kind of Iron Maiden suit watching, and she drinks a whole bunch of water because the way at least you have the idea that in the past, the way she puts you out is to pee on you. But she can't do it. She's looking at that person looking at her, and she's having a problem of some kind. And she finally just takes her hand and puts all the candles out, and so she burns her hands. And then she has to go up to the tattoo woman and say, do you have anything for a burn, that type of thing. And you can kind of get... it's an interesting scene because it's the only one... I'm trying to think. I think it was the only one where you start to see her kind of falter at her job. And that's after she stops seeing him. So, and like I said, with him, there was never a sexual element to it. So I wonder if it was that for him, he was telling her it was for something that wasn't just sexual. I don't know. There's lots of ways to read it. So. Yeah. I mean, think to some degree
that is the weird thing about like BDSM in general. I also have never done BDSM, but part of my thesis in college was all about it, and and I familiarized myself with a bit about it, and it can be sexual, right? But it can also just be about a intensity of emotion. In fact, I think for some people, for example, here's an idea. So roller coasters, right? Do you like going on roller coasters?
Hate them.
I hate them, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's people who love to go on. And when you ask them why, they love that feeling. They love that feeling of being overwhelmed by the speed, by the fear. It sets off this adrenaline, right? Okay, well, that's the thing, is that you have to get on a roller coaster for that specific type of feeling, right? and you enjoy it, so you keep going on roller coasters. Well, for certain people, I think that the BDSM experience is what provides them with that roller coaster. You know, it's kind of the best way to make it, is that there's a feeling that you're after that is not necessarily sexual. Because here's the thing, riding a roller coaster is not sexual, but there can be people who orgasm on roller coasters from the sheer intensity of it. But that doesn't mean that it is sexual. It is an intense emotion, right? An intense response. And there's people,
that's
I think, who,
what it felt like this was.
Yeah, this guy is looking for a response to break him out of his trauma that he has experienced. He's trying to find his way back to having human experiences again. And it appears that the path he discovers is through this feeling that he gets from being choked. And man, I'm trying to remember from my study that I did. There was somebody talking about the feeling of being dominated, was this feeling of feeling like you were totally out of control. You'd lost everything. Like you were just at the complete. You had no control whatsoever. And then at the end of it, to get control back made everything feel so good. So it was going through this experience that they went to, often, that when they got to the other end, it made reality feel so much better, such a much richer experience, right? So it can be sexual, but it doesn't have to be sexual. It can be this intense emotion, which sounds like what this guy is looking for. My only issue is this guy being choked. It's like, well, yeah, that does end in your death. I mean, how far do you want to go? And the ending is ambiguous, because you're kind of sitting there going, okay, well, do you feel like you've broken through this trauma wall and realize that this is a thing that you like to do that makes you feel alive, and by doing this, it then makes it so in your normal day-to-day life you have access to more lively human reactions, right? Or are you faking it until you can get yourself strangled to death? And that's what you said, that line where he says, I passed the exam. And they go, well, how'd you pass it? I faked it. Well, if he's faking that, what's to say he's not faking all of it? What's to say he's not giving her what she wants to see so that he can get what he wants? So it is
here's
go ahead.
The only thing that makes me look at it optimistically.
Oh, I hope it's good.
No, but I mean, in other words, the sense that, well, is he just going to kill himself later? I don't get that sense for two reasons.
Well, he doesn't want to kill himself. Is he going to get himself killed is the question.
Well, okay, I don't think so, because when she has that reaction and breaks down and cries on him, I think that's the point where something changes with him as well. And it's hard to explain. It's just in the acting. There's no lines or anything that tell you that, but that's where the movie kind of then turns, where up to that point, the obsession was, I have to be choked. Like, that was his whole end goal, period. And if it still was, he could have just gone to somebody else. Like, the ending could have been that you see him go to that club and look for a woman and say...
Well, he tried. He realized that it was something about her specifically doing it.
That's what or that it's something about her, that it doesn't have to be that anymore. It's almost like he was stuck with only his wife as the kind of perfect object, and he moved a little bit past that.
You got to be careful with this, because the movie The Secretary. I had a long discussion with somebody about the movie The Secretary, who was a dominatrix, and I said, does it bother you that I asked her that if at the end of the movie, does it bother you that they imply that there's some level of conventional normality to their relationship? And the thing is, having spoken to a lot of people about that movie, there's a lot of people who watch that movie and think that at the end, everything goes to normal. And it's like, no. They don't become conventional sexually after that. They might have aspects of that. I was like, but the whole idea is, it's the whole, oh, we're together now. we can do this whenever we want. This is no longer a weird affair going on in your office. We live together. This is the thing. And they can do it, 24/7, 365 days a year if they feel like it, right? It doesn't get normal. The weird just becomes the normal. So the idea of this is at the end is like, okay, well, has he just realized that this is just now his thing? That he has figured out how to live a new life with her doing this thing and maintaining it. And has he figured out a way to maintain this new life rather than let it kill him? And that's the hope. But I don't think he's going to go back to his life before that. I think that the idea that him going to the club and getting entrance and being there and being happy that he is in that environment says, hey, you know what? I've realized this is my thing, and I'm going to embrace it, and I'm not going to let it kill me.
Well,
That's
yeah.
hope.
And so I'm not saying that suddenly after this they're just going to walk in the park forever. No, I think they keep going in this way. But the thing that it feels like has changed was so much of his everything was essentially trying to stay in the past with the wife, whether it was through hallucinating or this obsession with the dress and the perfume, all this stuff.
Yeah, is him wanting to get back to that moment of it's Survivor's Guild, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes. And then something about that then changes. And I think it is this idea that there's somebody else who understands. Yeah, but, well, not only that there's a connection.
She doesn't laugh at him for this thing that he needs.
Yes, she understands the value of pain as a way of existing,
and
I guess.
And she cries instead of laughs, which says that she has a connection to this.
Because that is the next thing after the other woman laughs at him.
Yeah.
So the idea of being choked makes this other woman laugh at him, but Mona's response is she doesn't want him to die. She'll choke him, but not to the point where she's going to kill him.
Yeah.
And so that's, like I said, you can look at it a lot of different ways. That I'm choosing to look at it as
hopeful.
As a hopeful ending of some form, and that doesn't mean that something they both
it's a hopeful story about an alternate sexual
of people who don't
lifestyle.
Exist in a conventional romantic relationship, as most people would define it.
Yeah, honestly,
and in that way, I thought it was very sweet.
Watch The Secretary
honestly.
and then go watch this. This is like a good twofer.
Yeah, like I said, the only tough parts are it opens with what I've read is actual view of actual heart surgery. So you're going to see a heart sewn together because they show him doing his job, which is not great to look at, but it's the first thing you see. But that also, it's kind of like a heart being repaired. So I'm like, okay, that's a very kind of clear metaphor.
I would love to know. Is there? Did you get you watched on there? I love commentary from like the writer or the director. I'd love to know what they feel he was. If it is just him trying to be in the moment with his wife, or there was.
Let
more
me take
to
a look.
It.
So there is a Blu-ray. Does it have any type of commentary on it? Oh yeah, there is. There's an introduction by the director, an interview with the director, an interview with both of the actors.
Yeah, see,
a commentary. Oh man,
I don't care about the actors because they're just performing what's been given them.
Oh no, that is not always true.
Well, I want to know what the impetus of the ideas are, because the actor is not going to tell me why the lead character continues to want to be choked.
Yeah. Interesting. Love, kink, and father-daughter relationships. Yep, that's true. That's true.
Well, the fact that he's maintaining a life as a parent through all this is impressive as well.
Not well until the very end, to be fair about it. But see, I don't know that I'd want to actually ever really watch this again. But if the only way I would be curious on the commentary.
It's interesting that that's the response, but because you liked it, but you don't want to see it.
I did, but like.
Intense,
I don't like people in pain.
I know, and that is the funny thing about the two of us is that you and I are like so not the material for BDSM, because like you don't like the idea of people in pain, and I don't ever want anyone to take my when I was younger. I'll be very honest. When I was younger, someone tried handcuffing me to a bed in a sex act. right?
Yeah.
And I broke the fucking bed because I did not
Yeah.
like the idea of being
Well, and I
restrained.
told you that there was a girl who wanted me to choke her, and I wouldn't do it because I was afraid I'd kill her.
Killer,
Because I
yeah,
was so much
right?
bigger
that's-
than she
and,
was.
And that's the thing is that for me it feels so alien because it's like, yeah, but I mean, like, what if I kill you? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
but the thing is, I also leave the door open that, listen, these are my preferences. My preferences.
Oh
are
yeah, no,
not
I
the
don't. I have
preferences.
no problem with
And
it. I really
yeah,
don't.
I know you and I both also leave the door open for the fact that other people have other things, and there are other many types of ways of being connected, right? Because it will take it out of sexuality. There's many different types of ways of being connected, right?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, it's definitely not a thing that you and I would ever be capable of. That's why me doing my thesis on it was so funny. Because
Okay, wait. I found some commentary. I found some written stuff by the director. Okay.
Go ahead.
He was. You once said the world of BDSM is usually portrayed in films in a certain way, but the reality is quite different. And he says, interesting. I've only seen a couple of films that do it well: Barbet, Schroeder's Mistress, and Secretary with Maggie Gyllenhaal. There you go. The general portrayal in, say, Law and Order or something like that can only lead to death. It's like tobacco and alcohol. It's bad for you.
Well, yeah,
I wanted to
it's
avoid
always
that.
negative. Yeah.
Let me see. Trying to see if anything gives you a man. Oh, here's 2014. I got the initial idea. Man's wife dies in a drowning accident. He almost drowns too, trying to save her. Oh, that's right. I forgot. He actually drowned as well, and somebody pulls him out. I forgot. It's at the very beginning.
Okay, that's a major detail there, my man.
Yeah, I forgot about it, to be honest, because it happens at the very beginning. Yes, he actually is under the water, and somebody grabs him and pulls him out, and just as he's about to actually die. So they don't have to do any CPR, but he coughs a bunch of water up and is alive. That's right. Right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because now that changes it, because now maybe what he's looking for is he's looking for that moment. He wanted to know, like how, I don't know, I mean, just a theory, how long he could have stayed there fighting, or if there was any more left in him. Maybe the idea was that I didn't give it all I got, and then by being choked, he realizes that, no, that was as far as you could have gotten. You did everything that you could to save her. Maybe that's the survivor's guilt. That's a key detail right there. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, sorry.
That makes
I
it make a lot more sense. And that opens it up now that, yes, now that he's realized that he's learned that about himself, he can move on to this new relationship of whatever type it chooses to be.
Here was your question about her, and as far as what her relationship with Krista's character, which is the Mona. I needed to emphasize that what she does is not a symptom. The dominatrix I met clearly enjoyed her job and wasn't a victim. She was professional and pragmatic, which is why I wanted to have elements of that life in the film as well. At the visual level, going from neon-lit dungeons to the very down-to-earth scenes between father and daughter, as well as the dominatrix in her day job. So yeah, he wanted to show. So what he says here is he wanted to make sure that people understood that joy and happiness are a part of BDSM. So
and that's the thing is that when I did my thesis, part of the problem was that my thesis was trying to establish that there was a positive element to BDSM. And the university I was at was not interested in being connected with that kind of information. And there was actually some pushback that I might not be able to do my study, that they were actually going to stonewall me and make me do a whole new study before I could get out. But what's funny is I think you can still read my study. I think it's still there. I think it's an official study. I think it's archived in there in the university. So. But yes, I think the thing is you automatically want to establish it as a negative. And it's like, well, what I was trying to establish in my study is that the idea of BDSM is its own sexual, what do you call it? Yes, there are people who negative things happen and they can become, sadomasochistic. But there are people who it's a sexual choice. It's something that that is their, that is what they choose to be. That is what is naturally upon them. You know what I mean? It's their I was going to say sexual gratification, but it's your sexual. Oh Jesus Christ! I can't even remember the word. If you're gay or if you're straight, that is your sexual preference. Yes, it is just It is just your natural sexual orientation. You like sadomasochism. That is the thing that is you. It is not a negative. But and the thing is that they were like, oh yes, but there's pain involved, and pain is bad. And you're like, yes, pain taken to an extreme can be bad. But you know what? Listen, you can be so heterosexual that you rape your way through a college. That's heterosexuality taken to a psychotic extreme, right? That is, and in that sense, yes, there is a negative aspect to any sexuality. There's a negative aspect to any emotional intensity. We're going back to the whole riding a, what do you call it, a roller coaster. You can ride a roller coaster so much you become sick and throw up. And if you sit there and go, no, but I need to get back on the roller coaster, right? You can make yourself ill doing those things. I mean, you can give yourself fucking whiplash doing those things. There is a negative that can be attained to anything. But when it is done in a measured dose, when it is done in a survivable way, yeah, it's just that I think that in the realm of BDSM, it is very easy for things to get carried away if people aren't very professional.
Right.
And the thing is, having did this study, there are a lot of stories I heard about weird shit and things that dominatrixes had to say no to. Things that they even looked into just to find out if it was legally allowed.
Yeah.
I do remember something about a man who wanted to have his big toes cut off. Like, that was his fantasy. Now, this is an extreme, right? Let's be very clear. This is an extreme. This is not a norm. This is an extreme example. And they looked it up to find out if it was even legally allowed. And it wasn't. You can't cut someone's toes off even if they want you to.
Wouldn't that be considered like unlicensed surgery?
It's not, yeah.
Something like that?
I can't remember.
I think you need a medical license to do that.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember there was a story in oh god, it was in Europe. There was somebody who was
like their friend or something. Yeah, I remember.
People. Did you remember this?
Yeah, I do remember something like this. Yeah.
Yeah, there was something that they were castrating people as part of like a sexual gratification. And I think the thing is, it's very easy to get into the extremes and the sexy aspect of it, but there is this whole other aspect of it that is just about emotional intensity. You know what I mean? Like they're and they channel that through pain. Pain is a form of emotional intensity. In fact, what's funny is I was just reading. I'm working on chapter 3 for my book, the audio project, and there's a line in there about how for androids there is no real difference between pleasure and pain for them. They're all just signals. And that thing is that's the truth of us. Pain is a signal. It's your body sending you a signal that something is going wrong with your body, right? But it is a signal in the end, and you can train yourself to make or through whatever course those signals can mean something else. So, that which is a pain to you can be derived as a pleasure to others depending on how things are wired for them. So, yes, I'm fascinated by this movie. It feels like a darker version of The Secretary to some extent. But the thing is different is because The Secretary, you don't know what her trauma was. Like there was something up with her that she had tried to kill herself. She was unhappy with her life. And then through this BDSM relationship, she discovered something that fulfilled her. Whereas with this guy, there's a trauma that has stunted him. And he can't find a way beyond it.
I will read this review from the Vinegar Syndrome disc release.
Yeah.
Which I think sums it up very well. Possibly the sweetest little movie about pain and degradation made yet. There have been other films exploring people finding themselves in the BDSM world, but this is probably the most heartfelt I've seen so far, as well as going as far as it can in its actions before entering straight-up genre territory. The characters feel real without a bunch of forced sentimentality, and their interactions with each other, in or out of leather, are realistic but charming. The relationship between the two leads, the S and the M, essentially feels like a natural growth stemming from perversion derived from desperation and loneliness. And they put perversion in quotes. And it's easy to feel moved by how strong it feels by the time it ends, capping with a final moment that feels heartwarming in its own way. Yeah, that's what I would agree with. I chose to interpret this in a positive way. And I think that was the intent, just based on what other people have reviewed it and what the director is saying. I think the way it's meant to be read is that wherever these two people end up, they are going to benefit from being in each other's lives because they have an appreciation for each other in a way that most people in their lives will not. So you can just look at it that way. I said I was surprised.
Did you think? How the hell did you think we weren't going to talk about this movie for 45 minutes?
I know. I was a fool.
What is wrong with you? Especially this topic. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
Because we're already at 2 hours. You know that, right?
200 hours later.
There you go.
I was prepping to play the clip right before you said that. Yeah.
Because once you put on your music, we're already there. So.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah, come on.
So
this movie, of course there was going to be discussion.
The only downside to it is I think the only place you can watch it is Shudder. I'm checking really quick. You probably
unless
can
you
rent
buy
it somewhere.
on Amazon.
Yeah. You know what? See, an IMDb describes it as drama romance, and I think that's a far better one. Okay, it is on AMC Plus if you have that, or it's $4 on Amazon. Okay.
Sounds drama romance.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I think it's just that when that people look at that, and I'll be honest, that's what drew me in because I thought it was going to be something different. I didn't think it was going to be this. But it is funny that the two most recent Shudder films I've picked are so far from a horror in almost every way possible, and it's a horror streaming service. But whatever, I don't mind that.
Well,
I wouldn't actually mind if it became more
movies.
of a genre.
I mean, listen.
Yeah, well,
intensity can be horror.
Well, listen. The tooth pulling scene, I was not looking at it because it's rough, and the nail scene is rough. So
I just saw a little bit of the nail scene. And I was like, oh, geez, that looks graphic.
Yeah, it's
actually, you know what? You know what? Just talking briefly about special effects, I saw something recently that made me actually want to see the new Aliens Romulus movie.
Yeah.
So there's there's things they do in that movie that's very much like Alien Resurrection. So there's
the hybrid,
the hybrid,
whatever,
right?
We
but
can
the thing is,
I don't care.
Yeah, no. But what was fascinating about this, so there's a video that came out that shows that it's not CG and it's not a puppet. They got
it's a guy.
This 7'7", like I think he's like a Hungarian basketball player, right?
Yeah.
Who's already kind of, I mean, I hate to put it like this, he's already kind of weird looking. Got a really long neck. Like
he's unusual. He's unusually structured.
Yeah, and then they put him in this hybrid suit. And I saw the footage of him in the suit, and I was like, man, that is creepy as fuck. I was like, and the fact that I know that it's not CG makes it so much creepier. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? If this is this guy's sensibility, now I want to see the movie.
Yeah, when it hits a service, I will probably watch it. I'm not in a rush.
I'm not in a rush either, but I will watch it now when it becomes.
But yes, I saw a making of where they showed him.
Yeah,
and I thought, he looks like an alien and an engineer, or a xenomorph and an engineer blended together.
Yeah, he really does. And there's I love it because the footage, I saw this back, what do you call it, behind the scenes footage, and he's just standing there casually.
That's what I saw.
Talking to the director, and I'm like, oh God, he's creepy even then.
It's even weirder when he's just casually he's like, want to smoke? You know, it's like, what? You know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Jesus.
Well, that's kind of, that's one of the reasons I kind of want to watch it is because I like to support the idea that they didn't just make it CG, that they found somebody. That just had the body proportions they wanted, and that happens actually quite often. I mean, Doug Jones, if you look at him without any makeup or anything, he does look odd because he's so skinny and tall and gaunt. Yeah. But that's what lets him do all the stuff he does. So it's the same kind of thing. You find the right person, then.
And he's.
I mean, that's what.
That guy made his career all the way to being a Star Trek regular.
Yeah.
So it's a thing, but yeah, it is creepy when you see it. And I look at this guy and I'm like, man, dude, I was like, you got some interesting. It's sad because it does look strange to me because I mean he's 7'7", and honestly, what it is he's just got these very long arms and then he's this very long neck, and so when you see it in this weird hybrid alien suit, it's like, oh God, it's scary.
If they ever need Cardassians for a future Star Trek project, call this guy.
Oh, he could be the super Kardashian,
Yeah, he could be whatever the leader of the Obsidian
right?
Order,
Kardashian
or whatever.
Prime.
Kardashian Prime. Yep.
Well, there you go.
Well, that's it. 2 hours and change. So there we are. But yeah, I would recommend this movie if it sounds at all interesting. I actually found it to be.
I
mean,
I
the
would
more I think about it now,
suggest-
the more I'm like, maybe I should buy it because
I'd
is that
suggest
good?
to people watch The Secretary, and if you feel open-minded after seeing that, then watch this movie. Because
Yeah, and it is a cheap
Secretary is
rental.
like American baby steps to this.
that would be accurate. I think.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that I find that to help people understand BDSM, you have to bring them. You have to find good metaphors. You got to baby step them to it because otherwise they're like, well, it's just pain. Pain is bad, and you're like, you got to understand. It's like, it's different sensory experience. Like, yeah.
I'm just trying to see the director who wrote Secretary. Were they Americans? Or was this a foreign film? No, it was an American film. It looks like.
Oh, it was American, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the other difference is this is a Finnish film. So some of the
so you've got the Finnish logic on top of that.
Yeah, the limitations that an American film would face were not here. So, and that includes kind of the idea of the demonization or the kind of the negative stereotyping of things is not present because nobody really, the reactions to him where they're concerned are because he appears to be hurting himself.
He's being,
I think
he
more
looks
than
beat up,
Yeah, and I think it's more of that than them being concerned that he's in a deviant lifestyle or something like that. I mean, I'm not saying that only in America does that negative stereotype exist or that type of limited view exist. I'm sure it's everywhere because, misunderstanding is a universal human trait, sadly enough. But the movie doesn't have, the same... It does not have a fear of certain things that I think an American film. Let's put it this way. I don't know many American films that would show a tooth being pulled out like that.
No,
unless it was,
unless it was
it's Eli Roth.
An Eli Roth murder porn movie.
Right.
Where they're like, look at all this pain we're causing this person.
Torture porn.
Yeah, torture porn. There you go. Yeah.
So, like I said, I enjoyed it. So if you have Shudder, it's on there. And you can watch it for, like I said, I think Secretary is it's a good suggestion as a starting point. And if you want something that delves into a bit more visceral version of that, I think would be the way to put it, then Dogs Don't Wear Pants is both a great title. And it does refer to the fact that she calls him a dog until the very end of the movie. So she does say dogs don't wear pants, and dogs are on all fours, and dogs don't, walk on two legs like that. That's where that's coming from. So she's referring to him as a dog for most of the movie. But I liked it. I thought it was, as that thing said, possibly the sweetest movie about pain and degradation I've ever seen. So there is that. And whatever you choose to do with your weekend, in any sense, enjoy it. And... we'll see what state the country's in by the next recording. So, and have a good weekend, everybody. Find joy where you can, because who knows what lies in the future. All right, that's it. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.